Novel transcript of Hearing Thoughts by Anthony Diffley, pages 50 to 52. Let the truth be heard. It wasn't the blackout that bothered him so much. He was a well-read and intelligent man. He was aware that fugue states do happen to humans. While upsetting, medicine could deal with them. He eased down into a chair and sipped the drink. No, it was what happened while talking to Dr. Statler that bewildered him. It was just a simple sentence, nothing more. He appears to be fine, can't find any trauma or anything wrong with him. Danny heard that sentence while on a hospital bed. The doctors were ready to release him, but told him to check back in about a month so they could examine him again. Dr. Statler stood next to his bed and had just rattled off a few facts about fugue states. He was not convinced a fugue state explained what happened to Danny, but it was one possibility that they had to consider. "Your case is a bit puzzling," said Dr. Statler. Danny nodded. The doctor just stood with a concerned look on his face as his fingers scratched his chin. It was right after Danny rubbed his right temple that he heard the sentence. But Dr. Statler hadn't spoken a word. "Excuse me, did you say something?" Danny asked him after hearing or thinking he heard him say something. Dr. Statler shook his head. "No, Danny, I didn't say anything." "Oh," Danny said softly. Then came the second unspoken sentence. "Looks fine, excellent physical shape, but we should keep an eye on him, at least for a while." Danny went to respond to what he thought he had just heard the good doctor say, but he is cut off before he can speak. "We do want you to check in with us, just in case, Mr. Burke. A patient with a fugue state, if that's what it is, needs to be checked regularly," the doctor said. Both sentences, Danny knew in his mind, came from the doctor. Both were unspoken. Could he be hearing thoughts? The thoughts of other people. He was something of a science fiction fan, so he was aware of what telepathy was, but he shook his head again. "Yes, doctor, I will keep in touch," he said. In his apartment, Danny began to think seriously about what had happened to him at his cabin. Any lawyer must have a keen analytical mind, and Danny was exceptional in his analytical senses. He sat in a chair with a bourbon and Coke, gently swirled the liquor around in his glass. For some reason, there was one particular thought that seemed to pop into his head every time he tried to figure out what had happened to him. Alien abduction, maybe. He quickly brushed away the thought. What? Am I nuts? But why does that thought keep coming into my head? I think I've watched way too many movies. How could you waste good bourbon with Coke? His friend Nick asked him as he entered the apartment. Smiling, he replied, "That's the way I like it." But he was not thinking about a mixed drink. He stared at the mixture as it moved up and down in his glass, but his mind was on recent events. Recent events he realized that he does not remember. He was a science fiction fan, and his analytical mind told him he might be in the midst of a science fiction scenario. Science fiction might be considered fantastic, he reasoned, but it was also logical. Let's assume what happened to me was something very odd in terms of human experience, but still logical, he thought to himself. I go camping with two friends. We eat dinner. We have 3 separate cabins. After we finish, I walk back to my cabin, not a great distance from the other 2, and disappear. My 2 friends look for me but can't find me. Then I pop up again a little after dawn. Question. Where was I? I don't remember that time period. He took another sip of his drink. He continued his self-analysis. I now discover that I can hear other people's thoughts. This is, of course, highly unusual and not, shall we say, human. At times, the thoughts come to me, but only after I rub the right side of my head, just behind my temple. It only lasts for a few seconds, and thankfully the process of shutting down is remarkably easy. He swirled his drink again and drank it down. He walked to the bar and mixed another one. As he walked around the apartment, he said, "There have also been reports of alien abductions. Some of them, admittedly, are not all that credible, but one or two might stand up to scrutiny." He stopped and drank some of the bourbon again. Does that sound logical? He paced back and forth before answering himself. Possibly, at the outer limits of logic. But what other explanation would there be? He thought. That scenario fits all the facts I know. He frowned. And now that I know I can hear other people's thoughts, what do I do with it? He drained his glass again and sighed. One thing I have to do is go on with my normal life, and